What's up, you beautiful people? Welcome back to another episode of Unaligned and Unfiltered. Love scoliosis. Welcome back to another episode of Unaligned and Unfiltered. I'm your host, Jack, or the Twisted Wander, and happy July! I hope everyone had a beautiful Pride Month and a beautiful Scoliosis Awareness Month. I know that my June was filled with just speaking to everyone in the scoliosis community, learning from fellow people in the Pride community, and going to Pride. And it was just really beautiful to see the community come together and be a part of it. So I hope everyone had a beautiful June. Quick update before today's episode. I will be posting the 2 episodes that didn't get published during June that talk about Pride and history of Pride and a bit about my journey. So there will be 2 episodes dropping randomly this month. Haven't decided when, but those will be out. And then another update, because it's been a little hard to navigate my schedule and things. And it's been really hard to balance lately. I know we missed a Scoliosis Sunday just this week because of the balance of it all. So I'm going to switch up the dropping of the episodes for the remainder of season 2, just so you're not like looking forward for an episode and then you see like, oh, Jack's having text problems, oh, Jack fell behind. Like, I want to give myself more time to get things good for us, so that way you're not like, where's this episode? So moving forward until the end of season 2, we're going to do Scoliosis Sunday every Sunday, and we're going to do Twisted Thursdays every other Thursday. Just giving me more time to edit, fix things that may come up, and deal with my schedule, because it has gotten just more chaotic, if you will. So that is just my updates for you beautiful people. And I just appreciate your patience and your support, and thank you so much for being here. So, it's July. Happy July. July is Disability Pride Awareness Month. And I, for one, am super excited to talk about disability awareness. So that is today's episode. We are going to talk about disability pride. We're going to talk about the ADA and when that came in. We're going to talk about the flag, and I'm just going to share my journey of being someone who identifies as dynamically disabled. So thanks for joining me today, and let's scoliosis. Okay, so the Americans with Disabilities Act was passed July 26, 1990, which means this only went in 36 years ago, because I was born in 91 and I'm 35. So what a young act, right? It hasn't been that long since disabled people were given this protection in society and given this law. And this law is what helps me as a kid with ADHD get an IEP. So I really just wanted to take the time out to talk about why this is so important. So it was passed July 26, 1990, and that is why we celebrate Disability Pride in July, just honoring when it was passed. And and I want to talk about why we need it and why it's so important that disabled peoples are protected, So why it's needed is because before this act, a lot of societies, a lot of societies pretty much like, well, let's just specifically speak about ours. So, for disabled people, a lot of people were met with being shunned, being discriminated against, whether that was because they had disability that needed like extra support for, what am I trying? Hold on. What I'm trying to say is that the ADA Act was needed for protection for disabled people. Because before this, it was very normalized to institutionalize disabled people because of their disability. Because we were I guess people don't want to look at us, or they consider us a burden on society, or that, that we're just something that needs to be fixed, and that we're not worthy of, you know, basic human rights. And that is so false in every way that it could be false, because disabled people contribute so much to society and are absolutely amazing. And this law really helped a lot of people. And even though we are still fighting for so many rights, and there are lots of discrimination still against the disabled community, there's ableism still surrounding so much of society surrounding our disabled community. This law at least put into law that we deserved basic human rights, and that work and educations had to provide us with the tools to be successful. And it's so important. And as I just have to pause, because while this was passed, we're still, the political climate that we're in right now with this administration, they're trying to bring us back here. They're trying to bring us back to a place where disabled people were shunned and institutionalized. And that's really why we need to be loud this month. We need to stand in solidarity with our community. So we're not going anywhere, disabled people. And if you're listening to this and you're not disabled, I always just like to call out that one big thing that this community does say, and I really love it because they say it loud and proud, and it's so true, is that this community is a community that you can join at any given time, at any moment, and eventually will, just because we all are, we all are growing old, and growing old usually comes with its disabilities and age. So we need to, I hope, even if you're listening to this and you're not disabled, I hope you understand why it's so important to be involved in this community and speak up for this community and advocate for this community. So, that why we need disability pride is really because there's so many misconceptions about the disabled community. Whether it is because and I think my biggest call out here is that most disabled people, I can't speak for everyone. I personally have never had to have like SSDA, like Social Security Disability Income and things like that. But these are all things that are covered under the ADA. And they're super important because a lot of the times, like that paycheck isn't even enough. Like a lot of disabled people become entrepreneurs, not because they're absolutely amazing at it, but because they have to, because that check isn't enough. And it's not fucking right that you have to go in every certain amount of time to prove that you're still disabled enough, to prove that you're not lying about your disability, because that itself is ableism. Like proving your disability, like what? So while this law did a lot for the disabled community, there are still so many things that we need to work on, because, it's not perfect and nothing is perfect, but we can do better, if you will. So that's my really big call out, is you can join this community at any given time. And also the fact that, most disabled people would love to be able to work and not just receive that check and be struggling and then have to, create an entire side business to really be able to provide for yourself. Being disabled looks different for everyone. And someone may need, I'm just trying to say, those checks are not enough. I think there's a lot of hostility around, disabled people receiving money. Or, someone like myself who has a spinal fusion, as I say it, scoliosis. Um, Someone like me who has a spinal fusion, let's say my back really, really hurts, and I don't have handicap parking, so I would never park in handicap. Excuse me, that is an old bad term, and it just came out. This is what, see, calling out. That's internalized ableism because I grew up when handicap, that term was acceptable, but it's not acceptable. We have replaced it with disabled. So I'm just going to call myself out there because I'm not perfect. I am someone who has been identifying as disabled for not even 2 years yet. And then I changed myself to identify as dynamically disabled. So it hasn't even been a full year. And there's lots and lots to learn. And I would have never known that that was internalized ableism if not for this beautiful community who, shares their journey. And a lot of us go through like a lot of similar journeys. All of our journeys are different, but they're also met with a lot of similarities. So just to call out there, the correct term is disabled. Disabled is not a bad word. It's a beautiful word. And yeah, it just means that you can't do everything an abled body person can do, right? But it doesn't mean we can't do it in different ways or whatever the case may be for each person holding their disability. But that is, yeah. So, yeah, disabled. But what I was saying is that I don't have that parking permit. So I'm not going to park there. But if I did, I would be rightfully able to. But I would probably be met with judgment, with stares, because a lot of people just judge what disability is or what they think disability should look like. Ableism. And there is no one way to be disabled. So personally for me, I have spinal fusion. I have a scar on my back, but if not all the time, people are going to see that from afar or if ever, if they notice it, right? But I'm in pain. And sometimes like that pain will just make walking long distances harder, right? And so maybe I would park closer that day because my pain was really, really bad. Whereas some days I may not park there. But either way, someone with an invisible disability like myself should feel safe to park there and not met with judgment or questioning. And that's a lot of what the disabled community is met with, especially if you are a person who receives SSDI. It's not like they just get this check and they're trusted. There's a lot that goes into it. And I've watched people's journeys and it looks emotionally and mentally taxing and exhausting for the person who is disabled. And I really wish more people would know about that. So I feel like that was kind of when I go on those rants, I like to call them a jack attack. But that's really why disability awareness is so, so important. We need more people who aren't disabled to understand that there is so much fluidity or diversity within this community, and not one person has the same journey. Even people with the same diagnoses don't have the same journey. So we need to be open-minded, and we need to we need to, I guess personally for me, like I'm so grateful to have found this community because there's so many things about myself that make more sense now that I am identifying as dynamically disabled. And if it wasn't for really amazing people in the community who are online sharing their journeys, I really don't know where it'd be. I feel like I'd almost still be like putting myself in harm's way, trying to do able-bodied things. And I did do that, but I didn't realize that that's what I was doing, because after spinal fusion surgery, they pretty much tell you just be careful and you're fixed now. But that's just that's not accurate. And once I've embraced that and was like, oh, like my body moves different now, and it moves different now because I'm disabled. Like I mean, I don't like this word because it really isn't. I feel like I use it when I feel like I can't come up with another word. So I'm just gonna use it, but y'all know I don't like it. But like a normal able body, if you will. It's not everyone's walking around with scoliosis and a spinal fusion, right? Not everyone is walking around with that and experiences the chronic pain and the shifts of my ability of my body day to day. That is just, Russian roulette, as I've liked to call it in the past. But then like finding out, oh, dynamically disabled. It was so, so helpful. Vocabulary is so important when we're on this journey of like learning more and embracing ourselves. And I'm really grateful to the community and to the people who are sharing their journeys, who are just making it easier for the next person in line. Because like I said, we eventually all become disabled and we never know when that's going to be. So it's just so, so important to know that there's a community out there and that it's just a journey. It's a journey for us all. So yeah, why do we need, I'm just going to summarize it before I move on. Why do we need the ADA? Why do we need Disability Awareness Month? Ableism. Because there are genuinely people out there who think that we're not worthy or shouldn't be seen in society and judge us. And we also need it to inform and educate and get rid of these misconceptions, get rid of these myths, because they're hurting our community. And so, yeah, those are just a few reasons why we need the ADA and why we need Disability Pride Month. So, moving on, I really want to share the flag history, because the Disability Pride flag is so beautiful. And I did some research on it, and I actually learned before the one that I know now, the one that was done in 2021, there was one done in 2016, and it was actually a zigzag of all the colors you see now, but it was a zigzag. And because it was a zigzag, it actually triggered sensory disabilities to come about. And that could be like a seizure, something like that. And it was actually triggering that for people of the community. So people of the community reached out, and then they all came together and redid the flag in 2021 to make it more accessible for the community. And I find that so, so beautiful. I just wanted to go over the colors with you all. So, and if I can, maybe I'll put the flags in this episode, because I think I know how to do that now. But don't quote me on that. If this airs and you don't see a flag, I'm sorry. So the red is for physical disabilities. So anyone presenting with a physical disability, and maybe that, however that looks like for someone. So red represents our beautiful people in the community with a physical disability. Gold or yellow represents neurodivergence and intellect, which I thought was really cool because I grew up, I have ADHD and I just never knew. And then white is for invisible or undiagnosed disabilities. So I myself would fall under invisible with scoliosis. And then blue is for psychiatric or mental health disabilities, and that really beautiful. And then green is for sensory, so blind or deaf people in our community. And then charcoal gray. This one hit heavy when I learned about it, but it's for mourning and rage for the victims of violence, neglect, systemic abuse, and ableism. All the people we've lost in this community because of that. So everything I was just kind of talking about. So it is, whew, yeah, it's just heavy. And I just like to sit there for a moment because I am newly in this community, and I think about the people who have come before me, and you know, ugh, I just yeah. So those are the colors of the disabled flag, and I really hope I'm able to get it up here because it is so beautiful. So I just think it's so freaking cool how the community came together. And I think it's just so important to understand for accessibility that it's such a broad term. And I think for myself, as someone who really only thought, just giving up on the strap, really someone who only thought that, I guess like I thought like, oh, accessibility, a ramp or an automatic door. But accessibility is so, so much as I am learning. It's captions, right? I'm learning even that there are certain captions and words and outlines that are the most accessible for people who may be blind. And that's just really amazing to know because that's how I can make my content more accessible, right? So as I'm just on this journey and learning more, it's just really cool to see how my own brain is like broadening and like learning things that I really wouldn't know if I didn't find this community or eventually understanding like, hey, hey, Jack, you're dynamically disabled. So it's just been really, I have a lot of gratitude for learning about this and um, just being on this journey because accessibility is so, so important. And it's important to know it comes in all different forms. Like it's not just a ramp. It's not just an automatic door. It's captionings and it's colors. It's texture. It's so, so much. And I'm just really grateful to be learning. So, um, yeah. So, yeah, the flag was originally created in 2016, and then the community came together to in 2021 to revamp it. So it's pretty amazing, pretty cool story. So, kind of moving more into what I was talking about, like with vocabulary, is that it's really helped my journey. And I want to share my journey from a pretty broad aspect with you all to let you know a bit more about myself. Um, so I don't know if I've ever mentioned this, but um, I don't know if I've ever mentioned this, but I was epileptic. So I was epileptic from the age of 4 years old until about 13 years old. And I had my first grand mal seizure at the age of 4 years old. And it was, I personally only have like little blippets of memories from that, but I can personally feel inside my body if I focus on it. I can feel the fear of what was happening that day. And I think like growing up as an epileptic kid, it it's something that I haven't reflected on in a while. It's kind of something I'm newly progressing, processing in my life. So I just wanted to share it because epilepsy really does have a I'm very connected to it, and I just wanted to share like that journey. And then I also had also have ADHD, and I had an IEP plan growing up, and I was in resource room, and that's like everything I'm kind of processing in my therapy journey. And journaling, and just as I've just started this podcast, I've kind of realized like, oh shit, there's lots of process. Uh, thanks. But so yeah, I just like to share like why disability means so much to me because there are quite a few avenues of where disability fits into me as a person and my life and my experience as a person. So that would be epilepsy and having seizures and being on lots of medicine, and lots of sleep deprivation and tests and epilepsy tests. And we could do a whole nother episode on epilepsy, but I just wanted to share that in case there's anyone listening who may also have epilepsy. I just wanted to share a bit more about myself. I also, of course, as I've shared, have ADHD, and that for me has always been a disability. I know a lot of people talk about how once you learn how your beautiful neurodivergent brain works, it can turn into a superpower. And let me tell you, I can't wait for that fucking day. But for now, it disables me. It's quite honestly part of the reasons why that sometimes we have delayed podcasts. I'm unmedicated and I'm in therapy, and I'm trying to learn my journey. And as much as I think I would like to explore medicine, anti-stimulants, I'm really nervous. It's something that, yeah, I'm just very nervous to try it. So actually, if anyone's listening and you have ADHD and you're on non-stimulant medicines or even not non-stimulants, like, I would love to hear about your journey and how it's been for you. And yeah, please let me know. twistedwanderer418@gmail.com. I know, like, you're not a professional medical person. I will take your advice with a grain of salt. I just would love to hear from someone with lived-in experience on the ADHD medication journey, because it's making me nervous because of how many pills I took when I was growing up. So, I've always hated taking meds. That was a big fear going to surgery. First one. But I'm digressing. So, yes, epilepsy, ADHD, and scoliosis are my three. And I just think it's a beautiful thing that this community was here this whole time. And I just wish I knew about it growing up. Kind of like pride, right? You just wish you knew things. Because why are we not even teaching? Well, I know why, but whatever. It's just so important. And I just wish history was taught correctly. So those are my three things that make me a disabled person, a person who identifies as dynamically disabled. And like I said, I really wouldn't know that term unless I did start sharing my journey with scoliosis. And I'm so grateful that these communities kind of like intersect, because there's so many communities that intersect. And that's why advocacy and sharing our stories is so important. And to kind of give you a glimpse of what I mean about like pretending you don't have a spinal fusion, I want to share about my journey with like pushing past the point of your body. And maybe that's why I have new pains. Who the fuck knows? I feel like I'm never going to know that. I'm on this journey. Okay, I'm in my first Scully program. We're on day 3 of workouts. But what I want to talk about, it's going to be a little emotional, a little vulnerable. So personally for me, before sharing my journey, and I'm sorry if you can hear Zero, he is reactive and we love him, but he needs training. So if you can hear him barking, he just barks at everything he sees and it makes him happy. So if you hear him, just know he's on his bed with his tomato toy, staring out the window, barking at puppies. So the reason I want to share this journey is because I think it will help shed a light on what I mean when we don't honor our body and maybe cause more pain down the line, right? So before I started sharing my journey, I was in the medical field. Not medical, I guess, like, I was a patient transporter at the height of the pandemic in 2020. And this is going to be very hard to talk about because as someone who hears the way people talk about the pandemic and COVID-19, a lot of people talk about how they stayed home and they did dances. And my version of the pandemic is dark as fuck, which I'm sure there are many people who share that. But I also think we don't talk about it. So I'm going to talk about it today because I'm going to share what I did to myself. So let's just talk about it. I was a patient transporter. I started my job March 20th of 2020. No, March 30th of 2020. And oh my gosh, this is very heavy. I didn't expect it to be this heavy. I saw a lot. That's why it's very heavy. A lot of people died during the pandemic. A lot. So I just want to sit there and honor the people who have passed during it. Okay. And while I was a patient transporter, there's a lot of pulling over patients, bringing patients to the morgue, equipment that needs to be picked up and dropped off, beds that need to be moved, short staff. And it is because of the short staffed that many times I found myself needing accommodations for what I was going to do, whether that was pulling over a patient, pushing a bed. There are a lot of times where I put my back in harm's way. And because before the pandemic, I was a bartender, I was a hairstylist, I was all in person, like hairstyling still not the best career for someone with scoliosis, but like you're able to make that day as your own as a hairstylist. As a bartender, no accessibility there, like either like accommodation for doing things in previous careers. No, currently too. It's just a very hard one to have. But anyway, I'm digressing. What I'm trying to say about the pandemic and not honoring my body and putting myself in harm's way is like, there was a lot of heavy shit. Okay. And I am strong. I am proud of feeling strong. But there were times where I felt like my lumbar spine almost could, trigger warning for anyone who has a spinal fusion, I felt like it could just pull apart, like they weren't even connected. And it was so scary. And there was no time to talk about that or to get accessibility for that because I needed to work. Like my husband, no, fiance at the time. Boy, what were we, babe? 2020. Oh my gosh, whatever. Oh, fiance. My fiance at the time lost his job. He was bartending. Then like everything started to shut down. So thankfully I found a job as a patient transporter in the hospital, but I didn't say anything about my spinal fusion. I did, but it wasn't like people don't register it. People don't know what you don't tell them. And honestly, who knows if I would have gotten the job if I was really honest about my physical abilities. And I just knew I needed to do what I needed to do. And I also just had a really strong calling to be on the front lines. And I say on the front lines because, yes, I wasn't a respiratory therapist or a nurse or something like that, but I was in those patient rooms and I lost a lot of patients. We lost a lot of people. And it was heartbreaking. This is the first time I've really spoken about it out loud. And so I'm not gonna I think one day I may do an episode on that. But what I'm trying to say is like, it's so important to be able to honor your body and to not put it in harm's way because, ugh. Um, and sometimes we just don't have a choice. So sometimes we're looking completely able bodied and we're in so much fucking pain. And that was a lot of my experience during COVID-19 and during being a patient transporter. It probably didn't help that I didn't have scoliosis exercises and all that stuff that I'm learning now, right? But it was a heavy, heavy, grueling job on a fused spine. And yeah, I would find myself like doing things that were dangerous for my spine, whether that was like lifting something because no one else was available or pushing a bed by yourself because no one else was available. Like there were so many moments where I just pushed through, and I hope that if you're listening, take it from me. Don't push through if you don't have to. Try and get accommodations at your work if you have a supportive job. I know it's not every job is going to be supportive. And that's another reason why Disability Pride Month is so important because yeah, maybe I need accommodations, but that doesn't make me any less valuable than someone. If anything, it makes me more valuable because I'm able to connect with the people that I'm transporting. And I just wish disabled people felt more safe to request their accommodations. I know I can't be the only one that pushed through physical and mental capacity just because we had to do it. And I often I do think I've expressed like I've had new pains coming up, and I often wonder, I wonder if what I did to my body in the early days of my fusion is coming back to fucking haunt me. But nonetheless, I'm taking charge and I'm going to do my scully exercises and be in this program. But it just makes me really sad because I wish I'd been a better advocate for my spine. But I'm also proud to have been able to be there for my patients. So that is what I mean about, oh, and then even sharing with you when I was the EMT, I loved being an EMT, but the actual trust that you have to put into someone to lift the equipment and the stretcher at the same time as you so things don't go sideways was a lot. And there were a lot of times where I opened stretchers and they literally dropped me in training class because I volunteered to lay on the stretcher. Why would I do that? Things happen. We're learning. You're in school. That's valid. But I just mean even as an EMT, it just became okay, I have this passion, but I feel like I'm putting my body at risk. And that's kind of what patient transporting felt sometimes too. I'm putting my body at risk. And I just couldn't do it anymore. So that's kind of what led me to start the journey to remote work. Also, I had a huge mental crisis. As you all know, I've shared that. That's how this podcast came to light. I hit record one day. I was so burnt out from just feeling like, what the fuck am I gonna do? like, so yeah, it's a lot goes into our disabilities. A lot goes behind the image of a person. We are all walking around with stories and lived in experiences. And if we just walked around more curious and with an open mind, it would be so helpful for the disabled community because we don't need to be met with with doubt of like, oh, are you really disabled? On top of everything we're already dealing with, on top of the pain, on top of the grief, on top of the fucking shame that comes with it that's not even fucking ours to carry, but fuck, it's so hard to rip out. Like, it's so hard to rip shame out of myself. And I'm just excited to continue having these conversations this month. This is, yes, if you guessed it, this is the topic for Twisted Thursdays this month. Figured it's so important to lift up those around me and to talk more about my experience because it helps me process, and I'm hoping that it helps someone else. That is the whole reason for the season. So yeah, it's been a fucking journey to really understand what it means to honor yourself, advocate for yourself, understand the lived in experiences that have happened to you, understanding that as soon as you're ready to embrace who you fully are, your lived experiences, and you find highlight and when you find just vocabulary, community, things begin to make more sense. The way I'm moving through the world is beginning to make more sense. I'm able to honor myself more, understand things more, and it wouldn't have been clear. And I would still be so lost if I didn't share my story and find this community. And like the two people I really, really want to shout out. If you don't follow them, please go give them a follow because they really helped me embrace and understand more and really started this journey for me on like understanding the disabled community and understanding what disability means to me and understanding how important it is to raise awareness for disability. And that is Jill and Allie. And Jill's username is, I'm going to bring it up on my phone right now. She's a disabled content creator and she's fucking funny. Jill Cabernell. She calls out ableism so much. She's fucking badass at it. And she also, she writes. She writes over at Pretty Bent Things. She has a Substack, so you can follow her on Instagram, Jill Cabernell. She's amazing. She's an amazing advocate. She has scoliosis. She's just a beautiful human being, and I really appreciate her and her conversation. She was actually on the podcast in 2024. So I'll link that old episode if you do want to go check it out. And then my other amazing woman is Allie at Seated Perspectives. And Allie at Seated Perspectives is another disabled content creator. And she is, she's building the Disabled Joy Collective, but she also really helps disabled people come into themselves and tells you, hey, embrace yourself. You are disabled enough. No matter how your disability looks like, you're disabled enough because of your own lived experiences to talk about disability. And she's a huge reason why I feel confident to feel to be vulnerable today to talk about this history. I'm doing lots of firsts, talking about Pride history, talking about disability pride. It's all new to me. So I hope this lands the right way. I hope I'm doing these conversations, justice. And if you have any questions or input, constructive criticism, like I am open to it. I am just want to be a safe space, advocate and do what I can and share my story because my lived in experience is the best way I know how to advocate. So I hope you all enjoyed this episode about a little bit about my journey, sharing more about myself and my disabilities, along with learning more about disability pride and the history and why it is so important, especially this year now, more than ever, to stand up for disabled people. So please, until next time, my beautiful people, I will see you on Scully Sunday. We are going to do a Scully Sunday. I know we missed you last week, but I'm doing a Scully Sunday this week. I'm doing a Scully Sunday this week. And then I will see you in 2 weeks for Twisted Thursday for Disability Pride. Pride Month. And then again, those 2 episodes of Pride will be floating around somewhere. I'll announce them, but they're going to come out this month. But I love you all. Thank you so much for being here. Until next time, take care of your mind, take care of your brain, take care of your spine. Love you. Bye.